The Louboutins clicked against marble, each step a countdown she didn't know was ticking. Tasha Williams climbed those gilded stairs with hope in her heart, believing tonight would be different, believing Min-ho would finally choose her. She didn't even have to reach for that door. Through the crack, she saw it all. She heard it all. The contract, the investor, her relationship with Min-ho being sold for 200 billion won. What about Tasha? Min-ho's voice was weak. His father laughed. We'll settle her. The pen scratched. No hesitation. No fight. 18 months. Gone. Erased with one signature. Tasha ran, tears streaming, world collapsing, stumbling into the parking garage where fluorescent lights buzzed like warnings she should have heeded. Miss Williams. She spun around. He stood in shadows, golden-haired, devastating, dangerous in a way that made her skin prickle. Seems like I am not the only one whom my father has hurt. You could use some revenge, he said, stepping into the light. God, he was beautiful. 40, maybe. Eyes like honey and venom. Who are you? His smile was sharp enough to cut. Choi Jae-won, Park Dong-wook's firstborn son. Her breath caught. Let's say Dong-wook wronged me, and now I'm about to carry out the best revenge plan. He moved closer, predatory and precise. And you're going to help me finish it. What Tasha didn't know was that this stranger hadn't just found her by accident. He'd orchestrated everything. And his revenge was only beginning. Before we see what Tasha does next, don't forget to like this video. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out the exciting stories we release daily. Hit that notification bell because this story is about to get wild. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's get into Tasha's story. The silk of her dress whispered lies against her skin. Tasha Williams had learned to read a room within seconds of entering it, a survival skill she'd honed during 18 months in Seoul's cutthroat corporate landscape. But tonight, standing in the crystal and marble paradise of Park Industries headquarters, surrounded by Korea's elite sipping champagne that cost more than her monthly salary, she'd missed every single warning sign. 24 years old, MBA from Northwestern, the youngest marketing director at Hanwha Corporation. Beautiful in a way that made Korean women whisper and Korean men stare, bronze skin that glowed under chandeliers, curves that defied the stick-thin beauty standard, natural hair. She'd finally stopped straightening after 6 months of learning to love herself in a country that didn't always love her back. She was successful, in love, living her dream, until the woman in the staff uniform materialized beside her like a ghost bearing bad news. Miss Williams? The bow was perfect, practiced. Mr. Park Min-ho asked me to bring you to the executive conference room, 3rd floor. He said it's urgent. Tasha's heart did something stupid. It leapt. Min-ho had been distant lately, stressed about family matters he wouldn't discuss. But maybe tonight, surrounded by his father's business associates and investors, he was finally ready to make them official, ready to stand up to his father's barely concealed disapproval of their relationship, ready to choose her. She followed the staff member through corridors that smelled like old money and new lies. Her heels, red-bottomed Louboutins she'd saved 3 months to afford, clicked against Italian marble like a countdown to detonation. The woman stopped at an ornate door, bowed again, and vanished. Tasha reached for the handle of the slightly open door, froze. Voices filtered through the heavy wood like smoke under a door. You understand what we're discussing here. That was Park Dong-wook, Min-ho's father, chairman of Park Industries. A man who'd looked through Tasha like she was glass every time they'd met. This isn't a request, Min-ho. It's survival. I know, father. Min-ho's voice sounded like someone had scooped out his spine and left the hollow shell behind. 200 billion won. Dongwook's words were crisp, clean, surgical. The investor transfers the funds tonight if you agree to his terms. Otherwise, Park Industries declares bankruptcy within 4 months. 4 months, son! Everything your grandfather built, everything I've sacrificed for, gone. Tasha's hand was still on the door handle. She should leave, should walk away, should not, absolutely not, listen to whatever came next. The marriage, Minho started, is non-negotiable, Dongwook interrupted, sharp as a blade between ribs. Lee Sujin, daughter of Lee Industries. The investor specifically requested this alliance. You marry her within 3 months, and we survive. It's that simple. But what about... Minho's voice cracked. Not with pain, with obligation. What about Tasha? The silence that followed was louder than screaming. What about her? Dongwook's tone was almost amused, like Minho had asked about disposing of old furniture. She's been a pleasant distraction, I'm sure. Pretty girl. But Minho, be realistic. She's American. She's different. Not appropriate for a Park family marriage. Give her a generous settlement. I'll authorize 25 million won and end things cleanly. Different. The word detonated in Tasha's chest like a grenade. She won't understand, Minho said weakly. We've been together for almost 2 years. Then make her understand. Dongwook's patience was clearly thinning. Women like that are resilient. She'll find another situation. Probably back in America where she belongs. Women like that. Tasha knew exactly what he meant. It didn't matter that she spoke fluent Korean. Didn't matter that she'd earned her MBA with honors. Didn't matter that she'd turned down a VP position in Chicago to stay here with Minho. Didn't matter that she'd learned to make his grandmother's kimchi recipe, attended every boring family dinner, smiled through every microaggression. What mattered was her skin, her passport, her last name that didn't open the right doors. The contract. Papers rustled. Sign here. The investor wires the funds at midnight, and we announce your engagement to Sujin at next month's charity gala. Clean, profitable, strategic. Minho paused. Tasha held her breath, waiting for him to fight, to stand, to choose love over money. The scratch of pen on paper sounded like bones breaking. Tasha stumbled backward. The hallway tilted, blurred. 18 months. She'd given him 18 months. Turned down Chicago, learned Korean, tried so desperately to fit into a world that would never accept her. And he'd just sold her out for 200 billion won and his father's approval. She ran. The Louboutins she'd saved for the ones she'd bought, to feel powerful, to feel like she belonged, nearly killed her on the stairs. She caught herself on the railing, kept moving. Tears burned, but she wouldn't cry. Not here. Not where they could see. The elevator took forever. When the doors finally opened, she threw herself inside and stabbed the button for the parking garage. The doors closed. The elevator descended. And Tasha finally shattered. Ugly, gasping sobs tore from her throat. 18 months of I love you. 18 months of planning a future. All of it conditional. All of it worth less than a business deal. The elevator dinged. Parking garage. B3. Tasha stumbled out into fluorescent-lit concrete, fishing for keys with shaking hands. She made it to her car, collapsed into the driver's seat, and locked the doors. Only then did she let herself break completely. 18 months. She'd turned down Chicago for him, learned to make kimchi from his grandmother, endured his mother's comments about her exotic hair, smiled through dinners where she was the only black face in rooms full of Korean elite. All of it, every sacrifice, every compromise, every moment she'd made herself smaller, worth exactly nothing. Women like that. The words echoed. Women like that. Different. Not appropriate. Disposable. She grabbed her phone, pulled up flight booking sites. She could be back in Indianapolis by tomorrow night. Back to her aunt's house. Back to a world where she didn't have to prove her worth with every breath. Her finger hovered over search flights. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. Someone tapped on her window. "Miss Williams." The voice came through the glass. Deep, smooth, speaking English with a Korean accent that was somehow different from Minho's. More deliberate, more dangerous. Tasha spun in her seat, keys clutched between her fingers like claws. A man stood beside her car, and even through her tears, even through her devastation, Tasha's breath caught. He was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. 40, maybe older, but age had refined him into something that belonged in museums. Tall, easily 6 feet, with shoulders that stretched his charcoal suit. Golden hair that caught the harsh garage lighting and transformed it into something ethereal. Sharp jaw, full lips, and eyes the colour of honey in sunlight, currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. He looked like every K-pop fantasy rolled into one devastating package. Except there was something harder underneath. Something that suggested he'd built his beauty on top of something brutal. Tasha cracked her window an inch. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who thinks you deserve far better than what just happened upstairs." His voice was silk over steel. "My name is Choi Jae-won, though that won't mean anything to you. Yet, am I supposed to know you?" No. Something flickered across his face. Old pain, old rage. "But you're about to step out of the car, Miss Williams. Unless you'd prefer to have this conversation through glass." Every instinct screamed danger. But Tasha was too angry, too broken, too furious to care. She opened the door and stepped out, keeping her keys positioned between her fingers. Choi Jae-won stepped back, giving her space. Respectful distance. But his gaze travelled over her face, cataloguing every tear, every tremor. Park Dong-wook has spent over 2 decades pretending certain people don't exist, he said quietly. "But I exist, Miss Williams, and I've been watching." Watching what? Watching him destroy everything he touches. Watching Park Min-ho follow in his footsteps. His voice was soft, almost gentle, but underneath ran something cold and sharp. Watching you walk into that conference room at exactly 9:47 p.m., precisely when I knew you would overhear their conversation. The world tilted sideways. "What?" "I sent the staff member to find you," Choi Jae-won said calmly, like he was discussing the weather. "I told her Min-ho wanted you. I knew the exact moment they'd be signing that contract. I wanted you to see it, to hear it, to feel every single second of that betrayal." Tasha stared at him. Her mind struggled to process words that didn't make sense. You manipulated me?" "Yes." No apology, no remorse, just flat, honest acknowledgement. "You're a monster," Tasha spat. "Probably." His expression didn't change. "But I'm an honest monster, which is more than you can say for the men upstairs who've been lying to you for 18 months. Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why would you do this to me? I don't even know you." "Because you were convenient." He said it so simply it hurt worse than Min-ho's betrayal. "Because hurting you would hurt Min-ho, and hurting Min-ho would hurt Park Dong-wook, and I've waited 23 years to hurt that man." Tasha laughed. "High, hysterical, broken. So I'm just collateral damage in your family drama." "You were," Jae-won corrected. His honey eyes never left hers. Past tense. "Now I'm offering you something different." "What could you possibly offer me?" His smile was beautiful and terrible and absolutely predatory. "Revenge. Power. Everything they tried to take from you. And all you have to do is marry me instead." Wow, that was quite impromptu. Let me know in the comments if you think Tasha should even think of taking this deal, or if she should just run. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you still waiting for? Subscribe now, because this story is about to get so much more intense. Should she marry the ruthless stepbrother? Keep watching to find out. They sat in his car because Tasha was too shocked to run and too angry to think straight. The Genesis was all leather and luxury, and Juan kept careful distance, like he understood she might bolt at any moment. "Talk," Tasha said. "You have 3 minutes before I call the police." Fair enough. He settled into the driver's seat, hands relaxed on the wheel. Park Dong-wook was married to my mother first, Lee Yun-hee. They had me when they were young. She was 19, he was 21 or so, and he left us for a woman with better connections when I was 12. Tasha listened, tears drying cold on her cheeks. Kang Mi-sun, old money, the kind of family that could elevate him from rich to powerful. So he divorced my mother, married for business, and erased us. Jae-won's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. No alimony, no child support. We moved to a smaller apartment. My mother worked 3 jobs. I watched her destroy herself while my father lived in luxury with his new wife, and 2 years later they had a son, Park Min-ho, the legitimate heir. "That's horrible," Tasha whispered. "Well, it gets worse." His voice went flat. "When I was 17, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. She'd never smoked. Just worked herself into an early grave while my father pretended we didn't exist." He paused, and for the first time, Tasha saw something vulnerable in his expression. "My mother was too proud to call him, too hurt, but I begged her to reach out because we couldn't afford treatment. She finally tried calling his office. They told her he didn't want to speak to her." Tasha's chest tightened. "We went to his building. They wouldn't let us past security. Wouldn't even let us near the entrance." Jae-won's laugh was hollow. "I waited outside for hours. When he finally came out, I ran to him, called out to him. He never even turned around, just let his security push me back while he got into his car and drove away." "Oh my God," Tasha breathed. "My mother died 4 months later. I was 17, and I vowed that day I would never use the name Park again. That man isn't my father. He's just the coward who abandoned us." Jae-won finally looked at her. "So I became Choi Jae-won, my mother's family name, and I spent the next 23 years building an empire that would make Park Dong-wook look like a child playing businessman." "Don't tell me. You're the anonymous investor," Tasha said slowly, realization dawning. 200 billion won to save his failing company. Jae-won's smile was cold. "Park Industries has been hemorrhaging money for 5 years. His second wife's family money came from Ponzi schemes and fraud. When it collapsed, it nearly took them down. They've been barely surviving, maintaining appearances while drowning in debt. So you offered them a lifeline, with very specific conditions." He turned to face her fully. "Min-ho must break his current relationship. He must marry someone I choose. And Park Dong-wook must publicly acknowledge his company was saved by an external investor, though he's going to be so surprised who the anonymous investor is." "You orchestrated all of this," Tasha said slowly. "You designed this entire scenario to force Min-ho into the same position your father was in." "Exactly. To see if he's his father's son. To see if he'd choose money over love." Jae-won's eyes gleamed. "And he did. Just like I knew he would. Just like you needed to see for yourself. You used me." Tasha's hands were shaking. "You hurt me deliberately just to prove a point." "Yes. That's unforgivable." "Probably." He didn't look away. "But I'm offering you a chance to use me right back. I hurt you, Miss Williams. Let me make it worthwhile. Let me give you the power to destroy them. By marrying you, a complete stranger. A stranger who's being completely transparent about his motivations." Jae-won pulled out a business card. heavy stock, embossed with gold. I'm proposing a contract. 6 months minimum. You play my wife publicly. I get the satisfaction of watching Park Dong-wook realize his abandoned son married the woman his precious legitimate heir just lost for money. In return, you get my resources, my connections, my protection. You become untouchable. And what do you get? Revenge. And if I'm very lucky. His voice softened almost imperceptibly. The possibility of getting to know someone who appears to be far more extraordinary and feisty than I initially gave her credit for. Tasha looked at the card. Choi Jae-won, CEO, Choi Global Enterprises. I need time, she said. 3 days. He pulled out his phone. Research me. Investigate everything. Then call with your answer. He paused. For what it's worth, Miss Williams, Min-ho was a fool. His loss could be your beginning. Then he got out, opened her door like a gentleman, and disappeared into the shadows. Tasha sat in her car for 20 minutes before she finally pulled out her phone. She typed, Choi Jae-won. The results were extensive. For 2 days, Tasha disappeared into research. Choi Jae-won was exactly who he claimed. His business empire was vast: tech, pharmaceuticals, real estate across Korea, Japan, and the United States, worth approximately 3.2 trillion won. Nearly $3 billion US. All legitimate, no criminal connections, just brilliant strategy and ruthless execution. The articles mentioned his philanthropy, cancer research, medical scholarships, a foundation in his mother's name, providing free treatment to terminal patients. One interview from 5 years ago showed him at a charity gala, devastating in a tuxedo. The interviewer had asked about relationships. I focused on building rather than loving, he'd said. That will always be my priority until something changes, which I doubt it will. Tasha scrolled further, found a Society Page article from 3 years ago. A photo of Jae-won at another gala, a beautiful Korean woman beside him. Lee Sujin, the caption read. Daughter of Lee Industries CEO. The article hinted at a close family friendship between the Choi and Lee families. The same Lee Sujin Min-ho was being forced to marry. Tasha stared at the photo. Sujin was looking at Jae-won with something that seemed more than friendship. But the article was vague. The connection unclear. She bookmarked it. Something to ask about later. Tasha dug into Park family history. Everything checked out. Dong-wook had indeed been married before. The timeline matched. No financial records of support for Lee Yoon-hee or her son. He'd truly abandoned them. On day 2, Min-ho texted, We need to talk, please. Tasha stared at the message for 10 minutes before calling him. Tasha. He sounded desperate. Thank God. I've been going crazy. Where have you been? Processing the fact that you traded me for a business deal. Silence. Then, you heard. I heard everything, Min-ho. Every single word. I can explain. Explain what? That your father offered you 200 billion won to marry someone more appropriate, and you signed without hesitation? It wasn't like that. I was pressured. The family, Tasha interrupted, means more to you than I do. I get it. Message received. No. Listen, I've reconsidered everything. I told my father I can't go through with this marriage. I want you, Tasha. I love you. Tasha's heart, which might have leapt 2 days ago, felt absolutely nothing. Interesting timing, she said coldly. What happened? Did Sujin reject you? Did the investor add worse conditions? It's not about that. It's exactly about that. Her voice was ice. You made your choice, Min-ho. You chose money and your father's approval. And now that it might not be working out perfectly, You want to come crawling back to your backup plan. That's not fair. What's not fair is 18 months of my life wasted on someone who valued me at exactly 0-1. Tasha's grip tightened on her phone. Stay away from me. Don't call. Don't text. Don't show up at my apartment. We're done. She hung up and immediately blocked his number. Tasha sat in silence, staring at Juan's business card. This was insane. Marrying a man who'd admitted to manipulating her. A stranger who'd orchestrated her heartbreak like a chess move. A billionaire with a revenge complex who'd spent 23 years plotting his father's destruction. But Minho had spent 18 months lying to her face. His father had dismissed her as women like that. Disposable, forgettable, less than. At least Juan was honest about being a monster. And right now, Minho's gilded cage of lies felt worse than any fire Juan could offer. She picked up her phone. Then she called the number on Juan's card. He answered on the first ring. Tasha. Just her name. But the way he said it, careful, attentive, made something flutter in her chest. I have conditions, she said. I'm listening. Complete honesty from now on. No more manipulation, no more using me without my knowledge. Agreed. I keep my career separate. I'm not a trophy wife. I continue working, building my own success. I wouldn't want it any other way. A prenup protecting both of us. I don't want your money long term, but I won't be left with nothing. My lawyers will draft something fair. You'll have your own attorney review it. And one more thing. Tasha took a breath. I don't know how to trust you after what you did, but I need to know. Is there anything else? Any other secrets? Any other people you've manipulated to get to this point? There was a pause, brief but noticeable. The only person I've manipulated in this specific plan is you, Juan said carefully. Everything else, the investment, the conditions, was straightforward business. No other collateral damage. It wasn't quite an answer to her question, but Tasha let it slide. For now. And Tasha, you shouldn't trust me, he added. Not yet, but I can give you something Minho never did. Real choice. Real agency. I'm not asking you to give up who you are. I'm asking you to take what you deserve. Tasha stood up, walked to her window, looked out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Okay, I'll do it. Silence. Then his voice, rough, with something that might have been relief. You won't regret this. I'd better not, because if you manipulate me again, I'll destroy you. He laughed, warm, genuine, surprised. I think I'm beginning to like you, Tasha Williams. When should we make this official? Tomorrow. Courthouse. Before I change my mind. I'll handle everything. A pause. Tasha? Yeah? Thank you for taking a chance on someone you barely trust. The payback will be worth it. I promise you that. The courthouse was modern glass and clean lines. Tasha arrived in a cream silk dress. Not quite a wedding dress. Not quite casual. Perfect for a business arrangement that might become something more. Juan waited on the steps. In daylight, he was even more devastating. Navy suit, golden hair catching sunlight, honey eyes warm when they found hers. You're stunning, he said. Don't what? Don't pretend this is romantic. It's business. Something flickered in his expression, hurt. Maybe, but he nodded. Of course. Business. The ceremony was short. Juan had brought his lawyer and executive assistant as witnesses. The judge looked unmotivated until money changed hands. Then he became enthusiastic about pronouncing them husband and wife. You may kiss. We're good, Tasha interrupted. Juan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Right. Business arrangement. They signed papers. Tasha Williams became Tasha Choi. Just a signature, and her entire life changed direction. Outside, a car waited. Black Genesis GV80. This is Kang Tae-hyun, Jae-won introduced. My driver. Tae-hyun smiled warmly. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Choi. Family. The word felt foreign. They drove to his penthouse in silence. The building was in Gangnam, exclusive and modern. When Jae-won opened the door, Tasha couldn't help but gasp. Floor-to-ceiling windows, panoramic Seoul views, modern luxury with warm touches. The master bedroom is yours, Jae-won said, his voice carefully neutral. And you? Where will you sleep? The guest suite. I've prepared it for myself. No emotion. Pure business. Unless you prefer different arrangements. That's fine. Of course. He moved toward the kitchen. Are you hungry? Not really. I'll make something anyway. You should eat. In the kitchen, he worked in silence. Tasha watched him move with practiced efficiency, pulling out ingredients for what looked like galbi. Can I help? She asked. If you want. She moved beside him, started chopping vegetables. The silence was heavy, awkward. Tell me about Choi Global, she finally said. What do you want to know? Everything. If I'm going to play your wife, I should understand your business. So he told her about building his first tech company at 23, about acquisitions and expansions, about pharmaceutical breakthroughs, about real estate investments. His voice was professional, detached, like he was presenting to investors. You sound like you're giving a board presentation, Tasha observed. Isn't that what this is? He set down his knife. A business arrangement. I thought we could at least be civil. We are being civil. His honey eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something raw underneath. But forgive me if I'm not particularly warm, Tasha. You've made it very clear this is business, so let's keep it business. The words stung more than they should have. They ate in silence. The food was delicious, but Tasha barely tasted it. The master bedroom, Jae-won said after dinner. It's ready. He led her down the hall. The room was beautiful, creams and golds, fresh flowers, a closet stocked with clothes. I estimated sizes, he said flatly. If anything doesn't fit, return it. You didn't have to. I did. You're my wife. Publicly. You need to look the part. He pulled out a small box. And you need this. Inside was a ring, purple sapphire surrounded by diamonds. How did you know purple was my favourite colour? Tasha whispered. Research. Same way I knew your size. He slipped it onto her finger without ceremony. There. Now you look married. Jae-won. Good night, Tasha. He was already moving toward the door. My room is down the hall if you need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you in the morning. The door closed. Tasha sat on the bed, looking at the ring, wondering what the hell she'd done. 3 weeks passed in careful, painful politeness. They lived like roommates. Jae-won left for work early, returned late. They had dinner together, conversation limited to surface-level topics. He introduced her to business associates who treated her with respect because she was his wife. She continued her job, deflecting questions about her sudden marriage. But Tasha noticed things he probably didn't think she saw. The way he'd leave her favourite coffee waiting in the morning, perfectly timed for when she woke. The way he'd stock the fridge with tteokbokki ingredients after she'd mentioned it once. The way he'd hover near the kitchen when she got home, then retreat before she could catch him. Like he wanted to break the distance but didn't think he deserved to. The chemistry from that first meeting had evaporated into something worse, longing wrapped in guilt, attraction strangled by boundaries neither of them knew how to cross. And Tasha hated it. One evening, she came home to find him in the kitchen again. This time, there was a bowl of tteokbokki on the counter, still warm, perfectly spiced, and Jae-won was already retreating toward his room. She grabbed his arm before he could escape. Stop! Stop what? This. The ice wall. I know I pushed you away at the courthouse, but what? He turned to face her, and God, his eyes were stormy. You made it very clear this is business, Tasha. I'm simply respecting your boundaries. Maybe I was wrong. Were you? His voice was soft, dangerous. Because I manipulated you. I hurt you deliberately. I used your pain for my revenge. You have every right to keep me at arm's length. Every right to never trust me. You're right. I do. Then what do you want from me? I don't know. Tasha's voice rose. I'm confused, okay? I'm angry and hurt and grateful and attracted, and I don't know how to process any of it. Silence. Then Juan stepped closer. You're attracted to me? Don't let it go to your head. Too late. The corner of his mouth quirked. For 3 weeks I've been convinced you hated me, that this marriage was just a business arrangement you were tolerating. I don't hate you, Tasha admitted quietly. I want to, but I don't. What do you feel? Confused. You hurt me, but you've also been nothing but respectful since. You support my career. You're brilliant and thoughtful, and you make amazing galbi. She laughed shakily. And yeah, you're ridiculously attractive, even when you're being distant and professional. Juan's honey eyes softened. I was only distant because I thought that's what you wanted, because I didn't want to pressure you after what I'd done. I thought you regretted marrying me. Regret? He stepped even closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. Tasha, marrying you is the only thing I've done right in this entire revenge plot. You're extraordinary. I just didn't think I deserved to appreciate that after how I'd hurt you. You don't, she agreed. But maybe I'm willing to let you try. His smile was brilliant. Yeah? Yeah, but slowly and honestly. Slowly and honestly, he agreed. Starting now. He pulled her close and kissed her. It didn't feel like business anymore. It was possibility. Everything changed after that night. They talked, really talked, about his mother's death, about her struggles in career, about dreams and fears and hopes. He told her about building his empire, about the loneliness of success, about watching Park Dong-wook from afar and planning his revenge for decades. She told him about Indianapolis, about losing her parents young, about proving herself in spaces that didn't want her. They cooked together, laughed together, slowly learned to trust each other. The physical intimacy came naturally after that. Tasha slept in the master bedroom with him. Waking up in his arms felt more right than anything ever had with Min-ho. 6 weeks after their wedding, Juan came home with plans for a charity gala. The Schiller Hotel, he said. Next Friday. Seoul's elite, including your father, Tasha finished. And Min-ho, his eyes gleamed. Ready to make our debut. I've been ready since day one. The gala was everything she'd imagined. Tasha wore midnight blue silk, her natural hair in a crown of curls, looking like money and power and revenge wrapped in one perfect package. Juan was devastating in his tuxedo, golden hair perfect, honey eyes warm on her. Remember, he murmured as they entered, you're mine now, untouchable. They made it through cocktails before it happened. Juan? The voice was uncertain, shocked. Park Dong-wook stood 5 feet away, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Father, Juan said pleasantly. It's been a while. You what? Dong-wook's eyes landed on Tasha. Miss Williams? Mrs. Choi, actually. Tasha held up her hand, sapphire glinting. We married 6 weeks ago. The colour drained from Dong-wook's face. Min-ho, he called desperately. Min-ho appeared with Sujin. His eyes found Tasha and lit up. Tasha, I've been trying to reach you. Can we talk? Then he saw Juan, saw the ring, saw the way Juan's arm wrapped possessively around Tasha's waist. Who the hell is this? Your half-brother, Tasha said sweetly. Meet Choi Jae-won. Though you might have known him as, what was it, the son your father pretended didn't exist. Chaos erupted. Accusations flew. Dong-wook's face purpled. Min-ho looked sick. And through it all, Jae-won stood calm, victorious, his arm around Tasha. What are you doing here? Dong-wook demanded, his voice shaking somewhere between shock and something that might have been regret. I'm here for the announcement, father. Jae-won's voice was pleasant, but underneath ran steel. I wouldn't dare miss you announcing that Choi Foundation helped resuscitate your dying empire. You're the anonymous investor? Dong-wook said weakly. Guilty as charged. Jae-won's smile was sharp. Oh, and Sujin. He turned to the woman on Min-ho's arm. How is the arrangement going? I do hope Min-ho is treating you better than his reputation suggests. Sujin's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly, a practiced smile on her face. It's been enlightening. Something flickered in her expression when she looked at Jae-won. Something about how tightly he held her waist, how he stared at her with pride. Dong-wook finally realized, his voice hollow. You orchestrated everything. The conditions, the marriage requirement. 200 billion won to save your company, Jae-won confirmed. Also, I could watch Min-ho make the same choice you made 23 years ago. Choose money over love. Choose convenience over loyalty. His voice went cold. And he did, just like I knew he would, like father, like son. Min-ho's face had gone from red to white. You manipulated everything, just to what? Prove a point? To prove you're exactly who I thought you were, Jae-won said. Weak, selfish, willing to sacrifice anyone for your comfort. He pulled Tasha closer. Though I should thank you. By being exactly as predictable as your father, you led me to someone extraordinary. This is insane, Min-ho spat. Tasha, he's using you for revenge. You're just a pawn. I was a pawn to him, to you and to your father, Tasha interrupted, her voice steady, but at least he was honest about it. Unlike you, who lied for 18 months while pretending to love me. They left the family standing in shock, Tasha's hand in Jae-won's, both of them walking toward a future built on honesty instead of lies. 2 weeks after the gala, Jae-won's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered, listened. His face went carefully blank. What is it? Tasha asked after he hung up. My father wants to meet, to apologize. Do you want to see him? Jae-won looked at her, this brilliant, strong woman who'd forgiven him for manipulation, who'd given him a chance at something real. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me wants to refuse, but another part wonders if it's time to stop letting him control my narrative. Then let's find out, Tasha said, taking his hand. Together. The next day, they sat across from Park Dong-wook in a quiet restaurant. He looked older, humbled, broken. I owe you an apology, he said quietly, for everything. Jae-won said nothing, just waited. I was selfish, cruel. I abandoned you and your mother when you needed me most. Tears filled Dong-wook's eyes. I was wrong, completely, inexcusably wrong. Yes, Jae-won said simply. You were. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but seeing you at that gala successful, happy, in love, I realized what I lost. Not your business success. You, my son, my firstborn son. Jae-won was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can't forgive you today. Maybe never. What you did to my mother, to me it shaped my entire life, made me into someone obsessed with revenge. I understand. But, Jae-won continued, glancing at Tasha, I'm trying to be better than my worst impulses. I'm trying to build instead of destroy. So I'm willing to talk. Occasionally. Not as father and son, you lost that right, but as two people trying to move forward. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. As they left the restaurant, Tasha squeezed his hand. How do you feel? Lighter, he admitted. Ready to stop letting revenge consume me. Ready to focus on us. Us, she repeated, smiling. I like the sound of that. Me too, Mrs. Choi. Me too. They arrived home to find Sujin standing at the porch. Tasha carefully watched Jaewon's expression as it shifted surprise, then something like concern. I'll meet you inside, he said, giving Tasha a reassuring kiss that seemed to make Sujin's expression tighten. Tasha hesitated, then nodded and went inside, but she didn't go far. Something about Sujin's presence felt off. Just business, huh? Sujin said, her voice carrying through the partially open door. There was something in her tone. Disappointment, anger, betrayal. It's not like that anymore, Jaewon said firmly. I love her. You love her? Sujin's laugh was sharp. You fell in love with the revenge plan. That's why you haven't called, haven't checked on me. Do you know what I gave up for you? What I destroyed to help you orchestrate this? Jaewon's voice dropped. Sujin. Then you fell for her, for your revenge prop. I appreciate what you sacrificed, Jaewon said carefully. But things changed. Does she even know? Sujin stepped closer, voice dropping to something dangerous. Everything is in the past now, Jaewon said. I love my wife, and I'm doing everything right by her. She doesn't need to know. Know what? Tasha asked, stepping out onto the porch. Jaewon's heart sank as he turned to see the woman he'd grown to love standing there, her face a mask of careful control that barely hid the devastation underneath. Okay, let's leave Sujin for a second. The way Jaewon served his father was something. You know what they say about revenge being best served cold? What was colder than the revenge Jaewon planned? Tell me, do you think he went too far? What do you think his past secret is? Well, don't think this story is over. We still have past feelings to move on from, and past mistakes to apologize for. If you want more stories like this, make sure you like this video if you're Team Jaewon and Tasha. Subscribe for part 2 because trust me, even if his father apologized, Minho and Sujin will not take this lying down. Comment below. Do you think their marriage will become real love, or is Jaewon's secret something their contract marriage cannot survive? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.